A label is extremely important. It's very important to actually know that there is a pattern here and it's called autism, and that's where you go to understand and find resources. That's the point of a formal diagnosis, is to understand and help.
These days we tend to find that a label of autism is actually really surprisingly well understood, and most settings will have somebody there who can immediately think, oh, well, the child's just struggling with the sensory then, or they're struggling with the communication. We know how to help that. And so that's, I guess, the label that is more helpful than being labelled as difficult or, a naughty child, which is what we don't want for that kid.
Some parents have a lot of concern about a diagnostic label, and the reasons for that concern vary. Some parents express that they feel that a label will pigeonhole their child, and that other people, and particularly the educational system, may then decide what their child's potential is.
It doesn't identify the child, but it helps to be able to get the best out of your child, I think. You know, as a parent, the teachers know, you can get funding for them, you can actually work towards what the child is working on. The amount of support that they get with the label helps so much better in the classroom setting of 25 to 30 kids, whereas if they don't have that label, they are just struggling, and it's really, really sad to watch, especially being a mum of an autistic kid. I just know the ramifications that's going to have long term for them.
There are pros and cons, but basically unless we have a common language, unless you can describe the nature of the problem, like using a term like autism, or using other terms like anxiety and depression that I talk about all the time, we can't communicate.
We absolutely get families that once they get that diagnosis, they're concerned that their child will be labelled the autistic child and referred to as that. And that's a concern that is quite common for many of our families. Sadly, it's quite common.
And it is the case that there can be a stigma, definitely. But to those parents, I would say, I think there's more advantages in the label than disadvantages. And what I mean by that is that the label points a direction. We're all on the same page as teachers, psychologists, the army of supporters around a family to support a family know what they're doing. There's research, there's literature, there's an understanding. And importantly, as the child grows and needs to know about their diagnosis, it will inform not only their understanding of their challenges, but also their understanding of their strengths, their talents and their abilities.
So the more that I use that label, but I use it in ways where I'm speaking in positive terms, I'm talking about it in kind of a light-hearted way, it's actually an opportunity to help, hopefully, in the future for that label to have some less stigma around it. I can't change that by myself, but that's one of the areas where I see that how I use that label can kind of role model how other people might start to use it.
But with the label come a lot of other things. So whether we're looking at financial supports, whether we're looking at therapeutic services, a sense of belonging, and we look a lot at sort of the self-understanding, self-esteem.
I think there are some cultural issues that professionals need to be sympathetic to and understand. And it's really important to understand and appreciate the family's point of view and to be able to work with them towards what the child's needs are.
So a lot of the parents that I see and that come to our clinic and that are newly diagnosed with autism are often really worried about that label. It could be they want their children to go to university, they want them to eventually marry and have children, and they have all these sort of thoughts running in their mind around, is that going to be possible with a diagnosis like this?
What can be initially difficult around a label like autism is it can take a family a little while to get used to it. You don't necessarily want to be the autism family. In my case at first, I didn't actually necessarily want to go and meet other autism families because I thought, that's not us, that's not who we are. When in actual fact, you will get to the point where autism families will be some of the best people you meet. They'll be some of your lifelong friends. They're people who understand that you're having just a slightly different parenting experience than everybody else. And take comfort from that. Don't feel like that's a label that's put on you and you're in a different corner playing, with a different set of toys. It's not. It just means you've found the people that understand you and can support you and your family and have those shared experiences.
Now the question will arise at some stage in the future. That child will know they're different. Also, the other children will know they're different. Typical kids are natural child psychologists, and they have an expectation of what a child should do and say and think. But this child is different, and it will affect how they react to the child. If there is a term and they understand it and are educated in what it means, then they are more likely to facilitate and include rather than reject the child.
It doesn't take away from the unique identity that your child has, and your child will have that unique identity. They will grow to have the unique personality, and this label just helps people around this child understand the child a little better.
The kid, your world, you are not defined by it. What you need then is the most rich and possible description of the individual situation you're in. And that doesn't matter whether you're dealing with the health system, the NDIS, the school system, other people you're trying to explain to. The more information you then get beyond the diagnosis, the better the care and the opportunities that you'll provide for your child.
I guess it's how we use it. Once that label is given, once that information is actually handed to you, it's totally up to you as to who to share it with, when to do so. You want the right people to actually have that information.
Yeah, I've come to see that label, like anything, can be used in negative ways, but at its best can be really helpful and affirming.